This is part 3 of the series of tutorials for building our Drive app. This is also the first one in stage 2. So stage 1 had 2 videos. This is the third one, and it starts stage 2. The setup is to start exactly where we left off on stage 1. We're going to check if we have any recommendations just to make sure under Edit, Project Settings, Meta. I have a recommendation. I'm applying it. It's very common for that one to come up again. I'm going to check both my platforms. Everything's good. And the only other thing as far as setup is to duplicate the scene called Drive Stage 1, call it Stage 2, make sure it's open, and that's the one we're going to keep developing. So Scenes, Drive Stage 1, Edit, duplicate, in this case automatically got named Drive Stage 2. I double clicked on it to make sure that that's the one I'm working on. The idea is that, the whole game is going to have only one scene, but we're creating duplicates of it to have some sort of a trail, and we can go back in case we want to. So let's go back to the guide. In the folder, My Materials, we're going to create a physics material called Road, and we're going to give it the following parameters. And of course, later on, that can change. It's going to be like the smoothness or roughness of the road we're going to drive on. So 0.25, 0.25, 0.01, minimum and minimum. How do we create a physics material? We should have a materials folder, right-click, create physics material, name road, and 0.25 friction, which means it's, rather low friction, but not completely like, skating on ice. Bounciness, 1 of course would mean that it's very bouncy. 0 means that it's not bouncy at all. We're going to do 0.01, so it's it's an asphalt road. It's not really bouncy. Friction combine minimum and bounce combine minimum. And later on we can change that to make the road more slippery or less, more like gripping and so on. Let me just make sure I followed all of those. Yep. Now we're going to need to add a constant force. Now we have a vehicle. We have the base and the wheels and all that. It's time that we started to give it like an engine. What's going to move is the whole player, not just the vehicle. Remember, the player also includes the camera. It will add a rigid body, and we're going to keep all the parameters on a constant force zeros because it's going to be controlled by a script. We're going to give the rigid body the following parameters. Let's make room. So, player. Again, not the vehicle inside, but the whole player. We're going to add component, which is going to be a constant force. As usual, constant force also adds a rigid body. As it says, we're going to keep constant force with all zeros for right now. And as far as the rigid body, we're going to do something like this. The mass is 220. Now, I experimented with that a lot, but how did I arrive at that number? It's going to be a combination of the strength of the engine and the mass of the car. In short, try to imagine if you had a very, very strong engine, like, thousands of horsepower, but the car itself was extremely light, like, made of styrofoam. It might go fast, but it will be extremely hard to control. A car that's so light because any little force can push it off. On the other end of the spectrum, if you had a very heavy car, it would be very stable on the road, but you would need a much stronger engine to even, get it to start moving. So there's a fine balance between the weight of the car and the strength of the engine. And I experimented with a lot of numbers and came up with a weight of 220 or a mass of 220 for the car to make it light enough to drive nice and fast, but not too light that it's just, like any little thing knocks it off the road. The drag, of course, is the resistance of the air. Angular drag is resistance when we're turning. We're definitely going to use gravity. It's going to be a big part of the game. I think nothing else has changed here. So the main change is giving it a mass of 220. Did I forget anything? I don't think so. Good. Save. And let's go back. Now it says in the guide that if we play, we will fall through the plane, and it should, because we should have no colliders. As a matter of fact, that's a great way of checking that we have no colliders. To remind you, this car, let me move it back, this vehicle is made of a base. Let me turn off the gizmos. A base, which used to be a capsule. It's made out of, axles, which are cylinders, and wheels, and all that stuff. And none of those should have an active collider, which means if the whole player has gravity, but no colliders, it's going to be pushed down and nothing's going to stop it. Let's see. Yep, and it just fell right through. That's good. Just to give you an example, if for some reason I forgot to give, let's say, one of my axles, doesn't that be called rear axle one, just axle. If I forgot to give my rear to disable the capsule collider on my rear axle, and I played, it should stop it from falling. See? If it stopped it from falling, that means I have a capsule collider I don't need. So that's a good way of checking. It should fall. All those colliders on all these parts should be either disabled or simply deleted. Now that I know, let me check it again. I want to see it falling. That I have no colliders whatsoever. It's time to create our own. Not based necessarily on the specific shape of each part, but on the space that we want this player to take and collide with the rest of the world. So step 5 is now we will add our own independent colliders to the player. So in that way, because we're not adding it to the vehicle, the colliders are going to be independent from the shape, giving us freedom later on when the game is ready to change the shape of the car to anything we want without having to change the colliders. We're going to start by adding a box collider and giving it the following parameters. So let me make this easy to look at. And again, we're adding all of those to the player. So add component, box collider, and the numbers I'm going to give the box collider, just like in the screenshot, are not is trigger, not provide contacts, center 0, 0.32. This is like how far it's removed from the floor. And Z0, and size 1, 0.35. You'll see the meaning of those numbers in a very short while when I'm done with it. All the rest of them are, 0, nothing, and nothing. Here's the idea. Oh, and of course, give it the physics material road. So basically the wheels of the car or the body of the car is just as coarse or smooth as the road itself. Now, if I pretend that I want to edit the collider, it's also going to show it. I don't know if you noticed it, but there's little green lines. If I move it around, you will see that my box collider, those little thin lines, maybe if I turn the gizmos on, it would look, no, are basically a box that's the size of the chassis of the car. See the box right here? So whether the body of the car will have some ornaments on it or, doors or whatever, the box will indicate where the body's colliding with the car. And we're going to use the same approach for the wheels. So now that we have a box collider, by the way, if I play, it should sink a little in, down to the level of, you see how it sinks in, because the box is holding it from sinking down, but some of the wheels don't have colliders. So that's the next thing we're going to take care of. Because in the guide, it says, just like we did, if you press Edit Collider, you should see the green outlines of the box. Then turn off the Edit Collider. Then we're going to add 4 sphere colliders to the player, one at a time, giving them the following parameters. The parameters are very similar, just like the wheels, because, basically left and right are the same, only with a minus. Front and back are the same, only with a minus, and so on. So you can see that we're going to add 4 sphere colliders, 1 for each wheel. Let's do it very carefully and meticulously. Again, to the player, I'm going to add, I have a box collider. Let me fold everything else so it's easier to look at. A sphere collider, and that sphere collider, the first one, will have the physics material road. It will be 0.5 on the X, which means it's on the right. 0.27, that's how far it's removed from the floor, and 0.26 indicates that it's in the front. Its radius is going to be 0.27, and I believe I'm done with it. Now, if I, again, pretend to edit it and look at my car, I just added a sphere collider around the wheel. Now, the sphere collider doesn't look like a wheel, it looks like a sphere. The idea is that a sphere has something really unique. A sphere touches the floor only in one point. So it's really easy to control. It's basically its glide on the floor. So it may look like a wheel, but it collides like a sphere. And now we're simply going to add 3 more of those with extremely similar numbers. You see how like the second one is the same as the first one, only with a negative 0.6. So add sphere collider, road 0.5, 0.27, and 0.6. By the way, you might ask, why don't you just duplicate them? Duplicating components means copying and pasting, and I found that sometimes you end up with more than you bargained for. This needs to be, of course, negative. And now I got these guys. Then the 2 left ones are going to be exactly the same, only with negative 0.5, which is going to put them on the left. So add component, sphere collider, road. Oh, don't forget to also change the radius. 0.27, 27, 27. This one's on the left, so it's negative 0.5. The height for all of them is 0.27. And this one is in the front, so it's 0.6. And that would put it here at the front of the car. If I look at it from above, yep, I got 2 front ones, 1 rear one, and I'm missing 1 rear one, which is going to be this one. So add 1 more of them, sphere collider, same radius, same road. Negative 0.5, because it's also on the left. 0.27. Raised from the floor, and because it's a rear one, negative 0.6. At this point, I should have 4 of them. Clicking Edit Collider on one of them, see how the others don't even have an Edit Collider. They kind of work as a group We'll show all four of them. They should look nice and even and symmetrical, and all of them relate to the wheels in the same way. And if I turn it sideways, it looks like I just added 4 spheres, invisible spheres, around the wheels. So going back to the guide, when pressing edit on any of the sphere colliders, the scene should look like to show their green bounds, and we just did that. Now, if I play, it should not fall through the plane, and if it leans or half falls, it means that one of my tires, one of my wheels, doesn't have the right collider, doesn't have a collider, doesn't have the right values for the collider, and so on. So first of all, I'm going to test it the way it is. And it should just stay. Good. Just play. Doesn't fall through the floor. Now, just to experiment, for instance, what would happen if, let's say, I disable one of my sphere colliders? I forgot one of them. It still doesn't fall because it's... Zip. See how, if only one of them had one, it's like leaning on its side, and that's the only thing stopping it from falling. So that means that if it's not falling, that I got the right sphere colliders. Let me make sure that they are all enabled and it doesn't fall. I find that, from previously teaching this app, this is one of the things that students tend to mix up the negatives and the positives and so on. So be very meticulous at checking all of these values. They basically all have the same values, but some of them change, from negative to positive, and so on, to make it, left, right, front, back. Because we gave the all our colliders the physics material road, it would just make sense to give the road itself, which right now is just the plane, also the physics material road. Mesh collider, road. So both the wheels, or the the colliders for the wheels, and the floor has that road, physics material called road. Now we will start writing and attaching the 3 scripts. There's going to be 3 scripts for now. I have more ready made. You're going to write them from scratch following the screenshots in this guide. But it's time, and I think this is not going to surprise you because we've done this before. We're going to have an empty game object called App Manager. Its name is not that important. I'm going to reset its transform, although again, it's not that important. Its main job is to be a parent for a script. If you don't have one yet, create a My Scripts folder. I just created one before I started recording. Now, I already have a bunch of scripts here. You don't, but as we add them, you're going to have those scripts. So what it says that right now, the first thing we're going to do is simply create a script called drive main script. We're going to make sure that it's attached to the app manager, and we're going to type this content into it, which I'm going to do in the next part of the tutorial. So I'm going to see you in part 4, which is also going to be the second one in stage 2.